Picture this scene. A massive, heavy stone boulder falls from the sky, shattering a seemingly impenetrable medieval castle wall into absolute, chaotic dust. Was that devastating destruction the work of a catapult? Or was it the undisputed king of gravity, the mighty and fearsome Trebuchet? Welcome to the ultimate medieval engineering debate. Today, we're going to settle the score between these two colossal siege engines once and for all. For many centuries, military engineers faced one massive, frustrating problem. How exactly do you get past thick defensive stone walls without dying in the process? You certainly can't just knock politely, and hacking at solid rock with tiny swords is completely useless. You needed a machine capable of delivering massive kinetic energy. Enter the mighty catapult. Our technological story starts in the ancient world, primarily with the brilliant minds of Greek and Roman military engineers. The word itself actually comes from the ancient Greek ka, meaning downward, and poltos, meaning a small shield, literally translating to a downward shield piercer. These early, fascinating machines were essentially giant crossbows mounted on heavy wooden stands, specifically designed to shoot massive iron-tipped arrows or small, deadly stones. But these early catapults relied entirely on a very specific physical principle to store their destructive energy: simple tension. Basically, bending a giant piece of wood. And right here lies the fundamental flaw of early siege warfare. Wood and animal sinew can only bend so much before they reach their absolute physical limit. If an ambitious engineer tries to pull it back just a little too far to get more distance, the whole wooden arm shatters violently under pressure. Ouch! It is exactly like snapping a stretched rubber band against your own hand. Tension weapons simply had a hard, unbreakable physical ceiling on their power. To throw significantly heavier rocks, ancient engineers realized they couldn't just rely on bending wood anymore. They desperately needed a far more efficient way to store energy. To solve this, the Romans perfected the torsion catapult. Instead of bending a bow, they twisted incredibly thick bundles of animal sinew and human hair extremely tight. This tightly coiled potential energy allowed them to build a terrifying new siege machine. The Romans called it the onager, named after a violently kicking wild donkey. When an onager fired, the heavy wooden arm slammed into a padded stopping block with such immense force that the entire rear end of the machine kicked up. Hence the wild donkey nickname. It was a terrifying piece of engineering, highly effective at smashing through wooden palisades or breaking tight infantry formations. A 50-pound rock hurled at over 100 miles per hour would absolutely devastate ancient battlefields, scattering enemy lines like bowling pins. But the onager and its torsion-based cousins had a glaring ceiling. The entire system relied exclusively on the elastic properties of twisted animal sinew and hair. And there's only so much hair you can twist. If you want to throw a heavier rock, you need a thicker rope bundle. But as the bundle gets thicker, the twisting force required increases exponentially. Eventually, human muscle and wooden ratchets simply cannot tighten it any further. If you force it, the enormous mechanical stress will tear the wooden frame itself to absolute splinters long before the rope snaps. Fast forward a few centuries to the Middle Ages. Military architecture evolved dramatically. The wooden forts of old were replaced by towering, solid stone keeps. These colossal fortresses had walls sometimes up to 20 feet thick, built with solid masonry designed specifically to withstand immense blunt force trauma. So, what happens when an invading medieval army brings a traditional torsion catapult to lay siege against a massive medieval castle? The machine fires its 50-pound stone. It arcs through the sky, strikes the fortress wall, and practically bounces right off, leaving barely a scratch. It was literally the equivalent of throwing angry pebbles at a solid mountain. The defenders could just sit on the battlements and laugh. A catapult firing at maximum torsion capacity could perhaps chip away at the mortar over weeks, but it could never deliver a single wall-shattering breach. To actually break a medieval wall, engineers calculated they needed to throw projectiles weighing well over 200 pounds. Torsion simply couldn't scale up. They needed a completely new source of kinetic energy, something far more powerful than bent wood or twisted hair. They needed the unforgiving power of gravity. Gravity, It is the invisible, relentless force that holds the entire universe together. Unlike a wooden bow, gravity never snaps, and it never, ever gets tired. If you take a heavy enough weight and drop it from a high enough point, you generate massive, unstoppable gravitational potential energy. In modern physics, we call this potential energy, which equals mass times gravity times height. Or in medieval terms, big rock fall far, make big boom. The beauty of this is that there is technically no mathematical limit. If you can build a taller machine and lift a heavier box, you get more power. While a torsion catapult taps out at around 50 pounds due to physical material limits, a gravity-powered machine is constrained only by medieval engineering ambitions. But how exactly do you translate a rock falling straight down into a projectile flying sideways across a battlefield? You need a lever and a fulcrum. Yes, a seesaw. A lever pivoting on a central fulcrum is one of the absolute oldest and most reliable simple machines in all of human history. If you drop a massively heavy weight on the short end of a lever, the long end swings upward with terrifying, ungodly velocity. This is the core mechanical principle behind the Trebuchet. It is essentially an aggressively violent, weaponized, giant wooden playground seesaw designed to destroy cities. By harnessing this incredibly simple lever principle, medieval engineers realized they could bypass the fragility of tension and torsion entirely. The age of twisting wet hair and pulling stiff wooden bows was officially coming to a dramatic, monumental end across the world. Instead of relying on human muscle, you just built a colossal wooden box and filled it with tons of dirt, lead, or rocks. When the firing pin is struck and that colossal weight is allowed to plummet, the long arm whips upward in a deadly, terrifying arc. But to make it truly devastating and to launch projectiles over huge distances, the Trebuchet needed one more crucial, ingenious component. It wasn't a solid wooden cup or a bowl attached to the end of the arm. It was a flexible sling, and that changed absolutely everything. Without the sling, a trebuchet is just throwing a heavy rock with a stick. But attach a sling, and you create a double pendulum system. This flexible second pivot point effectively doubles the length of the throwing arm right at the very last microsecond of the massive upward swing. As the heavy counterweight drops and the main wooden arm stops, the sling whips around at terrifying, supersonic-like speeds, releasing the projectile perfectly. It transforms a simple heavy drop into a perfectly calculated parabolic launch, sending massive boulders flying over 200 yards with absolute lethal accuracy. It is a literal masterpiece of medieval physics. But here is the crazy part. This apocalyptic castle-breaking machine didn't start in Europe at all. To find the true, original grandfather of the trebuchet, we have to travel far east along the ancient Silk Road, all the way to China. Around the 4th century BC, incredibly brilliant Chinese military engineers realized the power of the lever and invented the very first traction trebuchet. Instead of using a massive, heavy wooden box of rocks for a counterweight, this early version relied entirely on sheer, coordinated human manpower. Dozens, sometimes even hundreds of soldiers would grab ropes attached to the short end of the lever and pull down simultaneously with everything they had. It was incredibly fast to fire and reload, but coordinating that many pulling soldiers under intense, chaotic battlefield pressure was an absolute logistical nightmare. Furthermore, human muscle, even multiplied by 50 trained men, still couldn't match the sheer, unforgiving, dense weight of a solid box of lead and stone. Soldiers inevitably get tired, hungry, or terrified by incoming enemy arrows. A giant box of rocks, however, never complains and never retreats from the front line. Over the centuries, this incredible lever technology slowly migrated westward across the vast Asian steppes, eventually reaching the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic world. It was there that medieval engineers looked at the exhausted soldiers pulling the ropes and had an absolute, world-changing light bulb moment of military genius. They asked a simple question: why use 50 tired, hungry men to pull a rope when you can just hang 10,000 pounds of heavy dirt on the back? The ink from the blueprint magically bled into reality, revealing a towering, fully constructed counterweight trebuchet silhouetted dramatically against the morning sun. And just like that, the counterweight Trebuchet was officially born. It was an absolute monster of engineering, dominating the medieval landscape like a wooden skyscraper. Constructing one of these behemoths wasn't just a simple military task. It was a supreme architectural undertaking requiring massive oak beams and master carpenters. It was basically like putting together the world's most dangerous piece of flat-pack furniture. Except, missing a single wooden peg could result in catastrophic, explosive failure. At the heart of the beast was the counterweight box. Engineers packed this heavily reinforced wooden crate with over 10,000 pounds of solid rock and dirt. Attached to this was the throwing arm, a single, incredibly straight piece of timber that could stretch up to 50 feet long, acting as the ultimate lever. But wait, if the box constantly weighs 10,000 pounds, how on earth do you pull the throwing arm back down to load the next rock? The answer was brilliant: giant wooden tread wheels. Dozens of soldiers would step inside these massive hamster wheels, walking endlessly just to winch the heavy arm down. This incredibly slow, methodical winding process was actually a core part of the weapon's terrifying psychological warfare. It was agonizingly slow and completely unstoppable. Imagine standing on those castle walls. You can't shoot them because they're safely out of bow range, so you just have to watch your impending doom. It sent a very clear, terrifying message to any opposing lord. Your expensive, towering, supposedly invincible stone walls are completely and utterly useless against our physics. When the siege commander finally gave the fateful order, a single engineer would strike the release pin with a heavy mallet, unleashing the trapped gravity. The sheer kinetic force of the counterweight plummeting downwards caused the entire wooden frame to violently shudder and groan as the massive arm whipped skyward. The leather sling snapped open perfectly at the mathematical apex, releasing giant, terrifying projectiles that could easily weigh up to 300 pounds. These massive boulders didn't simply bounce off like catapult stones. They struck with the devastating force of a modern artillery shell, absolutely obliterating solid masonry into dust. In the year 1304, during the bitter Scottish Wars of Independence, King Edward I of England laid a massive siege to the formidable Stirling Castle. After months of frustratingly ineffective bombardment with standard siege engines, Edward, famously known as Longshanks, decided he had finally had enough. He didn't just want to slowly break the walls. He wanted to make a horrifying, unforgettable point to anyone who dared defy the English crown. He ordered his chief engineers to construct the largest, most apocalyptic trebuchet the world had ever seen, a machine of truly unprecedented, terrifying scale. It required 50 master carpenters, working continuously day and night for 3 solid months, stripping entire Scottish forests bare just to gather enough timber. As the monstrous wooden frame slowly rose above the English camp, it absolutely dwarfed every other siege engine on the battlefield. It was a wooden skyscraper. They named this towering beast Loup de Guerre, which translates from French to the werewolf, and it was an absolute psychological nightmare for the defenders. Inside the castle walls, the Scottish garrison watched this skyscraper-sized machine being built just outside their bow range. The psychological terror was absolute. Before the werewolf was even completely finished, before it had thrown a single, solitary stone, the sheer imposing size of it broke the defenders' spirit entirely. The Scottish commander sent out a frantic delegation carrying a white flag, desperately offering King Edward their complete and unconditional surrender to save their lives. Now, in normal medieval warfare, a bloodless surrender is a massive victory. You take the castle fully intact and save all of your soldiers' lives. But King Edward literally looked at the white flag, looked at his brand new, incredibly expensive giant toy, and flatly refused the surrender. He reportedly told the terrified Scottish garrison, "You do not deserve any grace, but must surrender to my will." Then he sent them back inside. Edward had spent 3 entire months building this magnificent mechanical monster, and he was absolutely not going to pack it up without seeing it fire. The werewolf unleashed a massive 300-pound boulder. It completely obliterated the front gatehouse, proving once and for all that resistance against gravity was mathematically futile. So, in this ultimate medieval showdown, let's look at the final score. A standard Roman catapult threw a 50-pound stone about 150 yards. A massive counterweight trebuchet like the Werewolf. It hurled monstrous 300-pound boulders over 200 yards with pinpoint, devastating accuracy. It wasn't even a fair fight. A catapult politely knocks on the castle door. A trebuchet completely and utterly removes the entire house. But the trebuchet's true power wasn't just physical destruction. It was an instrument of sheer, undeniable, and inescapable psychological terror. Because the projectile traveled in a high, slow parabolic arc, the defenders had plenty of time to watch their impending doom falling from the sky. There was a distinct whistling sound as the massive rock cut the air, followed by an earth-shattering boom that shook their very bones. So, without a single shadow of a doubt, we declare the gravity-powered trebuchet the undisputed, absolute winner of this medieval arms race. For over 2 centuries, it reigned supreme. It represented the absolute, undeniable peak of mechanical physics and engineering in the ancient world. Kings and emperors spent absolute fortunes building them. You literally could not build a more powerful weapon using just wood, rope, and the laws of gravity. But the story of siege warfare doesn't end there. Because right at the very peak of the trebuchet's glorious reign, wait, what is that smell? A strange, pungent, and terrifying new smell began drifting across the battlefields of late medieval Europe. A distinct smell of burning sulfur and charcoal. The formula for black powder, another brilliant invention originally from China, had finally made its explosive, violent journey to the West. Suddenly, military engineers realized they didn't need a 50-foot wooden tower or 10,000 pounds of dirt to break a massive stone wall anymore. You just needed a heavy iron tube, a solid iron ball, and a very small pile of this highly combustible, magical dark dust. The era of mechanical tension and gravity was about to be violently and permanently replaced by the deafening roar of chemical warfare, the mighty cannon. Cannons didn't need 50 master carpenters or 3 months to build on site. They were mobile, terrifyingly loud, and they could fire continuously. A tiny, 20-pound solid iron cannonball, traveling near the speed of sound, could shatter thick stone just as effectively as a massive trebuchet boulder. Military architecture had to adapt instantly. The tall, proud, flat walls of the Middle Ages were completely replaced by low, thick, angled star forts. And just like that, the golden age of the great mechanical siege engines quietly came to an end, fading into the smoke of history. The towering wooden giants like the Werewolf were dismantled or left to rot on the battlefields, replaced entirely by cold brass and iron. But while the cannon undoubtedly won the future of warfare, the trebuchet will forever hold a legendary, unmatched place in human history. It remains the absolute pinnacle of mechanical engineering, a pure, brilliant manipulation of physics, simple levers, and the infinite power of gravity. It is a stunning testament to human ingenuity. Before we learned to harness the violent chemistry of the Earth, we used the Earth itself as our greatest weapon. Today, the trebuchet lives on. From university engineering classes to massive modern pumpkin-throwing competitions, we are still deeply fascinated by this perfect machine. Not to mention, it remains the absolute, undisputed champion of historical strategy video games and the internet's favorite siege engine meme. So, if anyone ever asks you what the greatest siege weapon of the medieval world was, you now know the undeniable, mathematical truth. The tension-based catapult was certainly a great start, but the gravity-powered trebuchet is the one, true, undisputed king of the siege. Thank you so much for joining us on this historical deep dive. If you enjoyed exploring the physics of destruction, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more animated history, and let me know in the comments below, what legendary historical weapon should we break down next? Until next time, keep asking questions, keep loving history, and remember, always use a counterweight. See you soon.